All right. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome back to the Adoptee Foster Show on the Real Precious Network. Happy to have you guys. Happy Tuesday. It feels like Thursday already. I'm not even going to think about it. Happy Tuesday. Hope you guys are having a good week so far. Definitely come on in. Come on in. Hit that like button outside of the live chat. Subscribe to the channel. We go live every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. So whether you're a foster, former foster, adopted parent, adoptee, um, the whole community is invited to the conversation because it includes everyone. Everyone is affected. Everyone has their own experience and journey through adoption, foster care, kinship adoption, trans, racial adoptions. There's so many different facets in the adoptees world that everyone is welcome. Everyone's opinion and perspectives are welcome and respected. We are adoptees, so we heavily advocate for adoptees. And so, sometimes it can come off like, well, why are you guys so angry? And what, they loved you and you should be grateful, and all of those things are true, and we are all of those things. However, a lot of people do not get the opportunity to speak truth. Even outside of adoption, people do not speak their truth. And I think that, adoptees should be able to speak their truth. Adoptive parents should be able to speak their truth. Former foster children should be able to speak their truth, because it's not a journey where you can stay silent and stay healthy.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And so speaking your truth is something that people in general just need to get used to in order to gain understanding, in order to free yourself from, baggage that you may be carrying and don't know how to express yourself or get it out. This is where you come. This is one of the places you come. There are plenty of platforms that I've been finding on Instagram. We were just talking about this, how we see adoptee content, and then more adoptee content
Mm-hmm.
starts to come into our algorithms, and we appreciate that because we talk about adoption and we have our experiences, but we always say adoption is not a monolith. And so to hear other people having similar experiences means that this is a communal emotion.
Mm-hmm.
More people than not are feeling these emotions, and hopefully those who do not understand will start to understand. We'll start to have the conversations. We'll start to be open to different dynamics of family. That was a long intro. How are you, Leon?
I'm doing good. How you doing? How was your weekend, and all that good stuff?
My weekend was well. We actually celebrated my sister's birthday, which is tomorrow, but we celebrated it this weekend. So happy birthday, sis.
Happy birthday, sis.
Yes. It was good. It was a good weekend. We went out, ate, went to the waterfront. There were some festivities and a festival down there, so we had a good time down there. So we had a pretty eventful weekend.
That's good.
Um,
Welcome everybody in. Go ahead and hit the like button, share, tell a friend. We ready to get started.
yes. So, Fish and Fit, thank you so much for being here. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to you too. Hey, sis. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Um, Hey, love. Good evening. Hello, hello, hello. I'm glad that you're here. Um, Next week, hopefully, we get to see you on the panel. I'll reach out.
Pull
I know
up.
you had some speak that truth. I know that you had some obligations, and so hopefully your schedule has cleared up, because we would love to have you on the panel. We enjoyed having you as a guest on our show. All right. So tonight we have three videos and a post that was sent to me. My brother actually sent it to me, and I was like, you know what? I'll hold my feedback for Tuesday. And so we're
We
gonna
haven't done one of those in a while. I think when we first started, you used to read a lot of posts like from Reddit and
go.
things like that. It'd be interesting to see what you got.
Well, I got something that well, I'm sure that everyone will have a different perspective, or we may just see, Unanimous decision. We'll see.
Mm,
All right. So we have this is someone who has been adopted. She says, "Hey, so I don't mean to be a bother, but I think you may be my biological mom. My mom revealed this info to me and was wondering if you wanted to do a DNA test and possibly get to know me and build a relationship as your daughter. I think I look so much like you. I do not have the rest of that message. However, the biological mom responds on social media, not necessarily to this message, as far as I know. She responds back on social media and needs some advice. Lux with Ty says, I need some insight. I was literally like 20 years old and I needed to pay my rent, so I went and donated my eggs. Now I have some young lady in my inbox claiming that I'm her mom, but I'm not. I signed my rights over, took my check, and went on about my business. I don't know. Part of me feels wrong, but the other part of me don't want anything to do with her.
ladies
Insight.
first.
Ooh, well, in this situation, you have a child who is searching for the truth, and you have a biological mother who is telling the truth. I mean, she says here that she was young, she needed to pay her rent, she donated her eggs. I point that out because for many adoptees, loss starts after the baby is born to the biological mother. Like that's what we are conditioned to think in the adoption community, that adoption starts with loss, right? And so you automatically assume that, okay, after the mom has the baby, whether it's right away, whether it's a couple years later, a few years later, the baby is now taken away from the biological mother and then placed in either foster care or placed for adoption. In
Hmm.
this case, this 20-year-old at the time donates her eggs, which means the baby never grows inside of her. The baby never gets attached to her through utero. The baby doesn't know her. Now, I could be completely wrong, and I will do my research. Um, because once you donate your eggs, I'm not quite sure if there is a connection. I'm not quite sure if there's a, yes, it's DNA. Yes, it is lineage from this young woman. What's her name? Young Lux with Ty. Yes, it is her DNA that is has now been produced. However, the DNA didn't get to become one with her throughout the 9 months. So my question is, does that really matter, or is it her eggs are her eggs? And you asked me my opinion, you can't be mad when somebody tells you the truth, even if it's going to hurt you. So, yes, this young lady wants to know who her mother is, but her mother's truth was that she never intended on being a mother. She never intended on nurturing a child. She intended on taking care of herself. And unfortunately, this child was a byproduct of that. And when you hear that truth, it hurts being the daughter who is longing for a mother daughter relationship, or she may just want to know what she look, who her mom, what she looked like, what her personality is, because she has a mom, she has someone who has raised her. But her biological mother's truth um is something that she should accept. Now, the biological mother, of course, as a woman, some women maternal instinct kicks in. I again think that that's after or during the the birthing process and the growth of a baby inside of you. I'm not
Hmm.
quite sure how much maternal instinct you have when you say you're going to donate your eggs. It could be from a kind place in your heart, or it could be to pay your rent.
Yeah, I mean, And maybe she just wants to know, like you said, maybe she just wants to know who she looks like. Maybe she doesn't feel a connection with her mom that she was the eggs were donated, right? And so like maybe she feels like if they meet and she sees who you are, maybe she can somehow build a connection. I mean, I don't know the the rules behind that, and
Well, we do know medical laws, and how does she know that this woman is her mother? Like how she donated these eggs.
she says she did a DNA test, right? But only if her mother did a DNA test would she know if they matched, right? Like so she unless she was told or yeah, she wanted to do a DNA test. So she hasn't done one, but she wants to.
Right. So she says she thinks that that could be her biological mom, but again, when you donate eggs, is there some clause that says I don't want to be sought after? Like I don't want anyone coming for me.
I'm pretty sure there might be some legal stuff behind that, because only way I know, she probably knew from her mom. Like
Mm,
maybe like when her mom went to whatever place they go to get the eggs. Maybe they told her. I mean, I don't know how that stuff works, but I mean, somehow she got this information somehow,
mm,
and she wants to know, who that person is. I mean, and I think people who are, I think fathers who donate their sperm, I think people look for them, and I think it's the same scenario. All right, well, I ain't the daddy. you know, I'm I just gave my sperm up and I relinquished my rights, so I don't want anything to do with that's the whole purpose, right? That's the whole purpose of donating is to allow someone else a chance in life that you just don't you don't want to be a parent. Like you want to help somebody else. But I'm pretty sure this happens a lot actually.
mhm. Yeah, I was just thinking, because adoption starts with loss and, being disconnected from your biological mother. And I'm not saying that I'm not an advocate for adoption. I'm saying that I'm an advocate for adoption when adoptive parents who choose adoption takes it serious and actually involve themselves in
Hmm.
communities where they will experience or hear or be in workshops um, related to the behavior and emotions that come with adoption. So if that happens, I'm for it.
Hmm.
However, just thinking and listening to this story, women who donate their eggs, and we're going to get into another story actually right after this about the percentage of babies that are available to couples who want to adopt babies. There's, so many babies to one couple who wants to adopt. Would donating your eggs be, because so many people are like, oh well, I want to adopt. In my mind, a little bit, it's almost better to adopt a child who a mother who actually donated her eggs. And it's still going to be natural for a child to want to know where they come from if that's the story, if their parents are open and honest with them and let them know that, the eggs were donated. Um
I just have a question. I don't
uh,
mean to interrupt you, but do you think that way of thinking would be less trauma? Is that why you say that?
yeah, I think it would be a little bit less traumatizing because when
Hmm.
you're growing in utero, you grow attached to your biological
Hmm.
mother. And when we had Julie on, she talked about how adoption trauma is cellular, meaning it is growing from. conception. Like it is growing and is growing no matter what the biological mom is going through. And we know that a lot of biological mothers are in less fortunate situations. Could be poverty, could it be abuse, could be drug abuse, it could be a lot of different reasons. um
Mhm.
but would it be less drama, or excuse me, less trauma on a child who was adopted from someone who donated their eggs?
I could see your point there. Like,
Or would that even
um,
be adoption? Would that just be someone who says, I
that's
want to
just
be
that's just IVF. Like
yeah,
that's just because unless like her parents told her that look, we couldn't have kids, so we did the IVF process, and you know you are our child now.
right.
Unless they actually had that conversation, or maybe she could have found some paperwork or something. I don't know, but um, that's tough. Like
Right.
that's a tough one.
Because
Like
for
that's
me it's is it even adoption? Is it some form of adoption? That's the part that's tripping me out. Yes, you can do IVF, but are you honest? Is that it? Are you honest to say that, these eggs were donated?
that's what I'm saying. Like right, like so, if her parents was like, hey, we couldn't have kids, so we went through. But like, I don't know many parents that would actually go that deep into like if they had a kid, like if they would actually tell that true story of how they were conceived, you know.
I think that I think that I need to look into that a little bit more, because I think the sperm. I think there still has to be some DNA that relates the child to a parent who is involved in that situation.
Yeah, I mean
So it
that's
wouldn't necessarily quite be adoption, but it would be a matter of um, that being a conversation. And even within family, we talk about family, is that a conversation that comes up for those who undergo IVF? But it seems like this is what happened, and somehow this young girl knows, so they had to have some type of conversation, and her mom was honest with her. And
mhm.
you know she's saying, hey, look, i I didn't even think about being a mother. So I think that there has to be some type of clause that you sign that says, you see the adoption stories where they say don't come looking for me. Well, you can say that after the fact all you want, but if someone actually comes to look for you, is there something that can actually stop them from doing that? And there has to be.
Well, I mean, cuz she gave up her rights, right? Like I mean, that's part of it, right? Like so you're signing away not being responsible, for um, you know, donating to the IVF process. Yeah, I don't know a lot about it. I think maybe we could circle back on this one, at
Yeah,
another time.
I think that the end result of this is pretty much, how does she have this conversation with, you know, the egg that she donated, pretty much. Like, how do I let her down softly? Do I tell her that, do I give her the truth? And like I said, when people give you their truth, you have to accept their truth, because you can't turn it into something that you want it to be when it's not. And in this situation, she definitely needs the truth.
I wonder what the comments was saying under her post. That would be interesting.
Well, a lot of people are saying, if she donated her eggs and she gave up her rights, then why is she coming to look for her? And I think, and I said this a post that I did a comment under, and I said, we make up 3% of the population. So at some point in our lives, we have to expect people not to empathize or understand us and the emotions and the thoughts that run through our head and the eagerness to want to meet our biological family. To others, it may seem like, well, why would you want to meet them? They gave you up. Whereas to us, it's like, well, we don't see anybody else that looks like us. So, we want to at least, experience that. It's
Mm-hmm.
literally two different worlds, but you're living in the same space, same time. Yet when we get the news that we're adopted or we get reunified with our biological family, we then now exist in, you know, another world, kind of, because it's like going between the two, especially if you have relationships with both sides. um and like I always say, we just want everybody to get along. We would love if we just had a family reunion and everybody is just there, you know what I mean? You don't want to have to feel like you're going to visit this side of the family and then this side. You really want it to, in a perfect world, be where everyone can get along and uh, be happy and joyful for the fact that children were taken care of and
Mm-hmm.
they have succeeded and they're thriving in life, um, and still holding space for the truth of the matter that there were a lot of emotions surrounding the journey. All right, so we're going to get to this video. Like I said, it's a video of a woman who was talking about the statistics of people who want to adopt babies, but look how many couples are waiting for babies, for to be adopted.
People are waiting to adopt an infant versus how many infants are available to adopt.
There's about 45 couples per available infant waiting. So
45 couples per available infant. So when this infant is born, is it may the best person win, or there is this selection process now?
So it is an absolute supply and demand situation. It's literally commodifying these infants and children. No other country really does adoption like the United States does. So everyone else.
I was actually reading about that, where most of the other countries, they don't really. Adoption is like it's handled so differently. Like I think I can't remember where I was reading it, but it was one country like you have to wait like I want to say it was like 6 months before you could actually adopt an infant. And I don't remember where it was, but they basically it was like they give them a decision to get themselves together, like
Mm.
for that choice. Like if they want to put the kid up for adoption, um, they're like, well, take some time to think about it, like because this is a decision that once you make this decision, it's going to impact you for the rest of your life.
I think here birth mothers are given like 72 hours.
Yes,
Like it's
that's
something
like,
crazy. It's like, let me know now. Like literally, it's seriously, it is. It's sad, but it is. So you're right. It's definitely done differently in other countries. Here, it is about profit, and it's sad to say that, but
hmm
that's what it's about. We talk about it all the time. How the state is awarded funds for every child that is not reunified with their biological family and are placed in the foster homes.
hmm
More children that are placed in foster homes means more funding for the state. And to think that for every newborn baby, there are 45 couples that are waiting to adopt a baby, you know, puts in perspective what happens to the children that are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Don't even get into the teens because the percentages drop severely
hmm
for being candidates to be adopted. Most of those preteens and teens usually age out of the system, meaning that, again, trash bag, papers, they probably leave with an ID, and most times not given housing, job. Like, of course, you would want this child to be doing those things, but let's be realistic. Who's guiding them? Who is teaching them these things? And so, you know, at alarming the and we'll get to it in the video, but you know, they talk about what we talk about all the time, the fairy tale that everyone sees when it comes to adoption and foster care, and learning the reality is a reality check for most people.
Around the world, because the baby scoop era, this was a global thing. The church, there was a huge religious influence in this whole thing. Unmarried women getting pregnant and being sent away to maternity homes and laundries. Their infants would be sold, and they would stay and work years in these laundries. Everyone else around the globe learned their lesson. And we here in the United States turned it into a private industry.
We let puppies stay with their mothers longer.
Let that sink in. We let puppies stay with their mothers longer. When people are breeding dogs and they trying to sell them for profit, they tell you, nope, you got to wait. It needs to be around its mother. It needs to be nourished. It needs to be taken care of.
That's a good point.
Before we can
That is a very good point.
Up in a home, we want to make sure it's a good home. We want to make sure you're going to love and care for this dog. Dogs stay with their biological mothers longer
than we do babies. And don't nurse, don't get any contact, all of the things. And that creates a primal wound for the child as well as for the mother.
Yep, exactly. It's all of these things that just people really gloss over, right? Saving a baby. Oh, bonding. They can bond to the next person. They can bond to who holds them. But that's not really the reality of and the science of it, right?
So again, you know, babies know who they're attached to. It's science, you know. So for babies in the baby scoop era, when they say, oh, they're blank slate, how does that go over people's heads? Do they really believe that? Do they really believe that these babies are like they were manufactured at a factory? I don't think a lot of people think about that when it comes to adoption history, because you always got to learn how a thing is started, where it originates.
If you keep telling a lie, they'll believe it long enough.
Like blank slate baby. Blank slate baby. How does that even make any type of sense? We're not talking about a doll. Remember back in the day? You may not. Because I played with Cabbage Patch dolls. Okay, they came with a little adoption certificate. You know, that's a blank slate baby right there. No matter how much I try to feed that thing, stuff a little juice bottle in his mouth, that was a blank slate baby. It wasn't blinking, it wasn't crying, it wasn't doing anything. So even the terminology around adoption and the origin of how babies can just assimilate and adjust into your family, how it starts off, and this fairy tale picture of how you can just have a family just like that from a blank slate baby. I still just don't understand.
Babies bond to their gestational carrier. She is the only sound, smell, and taste that infant knows and bonds to in utero.
I mean, obviously, we know there are times when some people can't parent.
Right. And that's another clarifying point too. When I say this a lot, You cannot paint with a broad stroke. Everyone handles things differently and deals with things differently. And we've known for many, many years that the rainbows and unicorns narrative has ruled the storylines, has ruled all of this, right? But when you think about the ones that have been abused or that didn't get the luck of the draw, because let's be real, that's exactly what it is, right? So if there is one bad adoption experience, why is that acceptable? It shouldn't be, because adoption is supposed to be about the child. But when you give them right out of the gate, their first life experience is a trauma of being separated, that is really a big thing to overcome.
Why is one bad adoption story acceptable? And a lot of times you don't even hear about them. It's only until people start talking about their experience where some may classify it as bad. But like she said, it is difficult to go through that process, and not a lot of people understand that pain or that void that we have being disconnected from our biological parents, whether we know them, whether we know what they do, what their habits are, who they are as people. Scientifically, we're going to be drawn and attracted to them. In what way? Biologically, we want to know different information. We want to know what we look like. We sometimes it's just the simple things. It's the simple things. Is a lot of times adoptees are not looking to start these deep relationships with their biological family. A lot of times it's exploration. Like, let me scope out the scene. Let me see what they look like. Let me see who all there. We're doing a lot of observation, almost like babies looking at their parents for the first time. You know how crazy babies look because they can't focus on something that's close in their face. That's almost like, what we're looking like. You ever look at relative race, and sometimes people are just so fixated on that relative's face. Like, I finally found someone who looks like me.
It's a mirror. It's really a mirror of your life. Like when I was going, well, not I, but I'm going through the observation and the research process of finding my family, and I'm finding out so many things that make sense. Like, for example, I was researching. I was a pretty good bowler in Michigan. Well, my family, they are really good bowlers.
You said it makes sense.
And when you think about, my 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 lineage of my family, they're very technical, very um like that's why I'm in the field I'm in, because, you know, when people don't realize when they're not adopted and they don't have to wonder about these traits or wonder about these things, it's easy for them to overlook it. But like when you've never had it or you never experienced it, it's like opening up a whole new world, or really just, looking back at like, okay, oh, that's why I like to do this, or, that's why I do this, or, oh, like when my sister was on here and she was telling you how much I look like my father and how my mannerisms and those things go a long way, and a lot of people may not look at it that way, but those are like you said, those are the simple things in life that we are searching for.
Yeah. And if a relationship sparks out of that, great,
Hmm.
because now you'll have a biological connection and you
Hmm.
build on that connection. But if it doesn't, I would say it would depend on your age and your self-awareness and where you're at in life, if you can handle it or not. If you
Hmm.
don't get the connection that you are searching for, you
For
know.
sure.
Same as if you go on them shows Love is Blind, and you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta be open-minded. but you also have to be in a place of acceptance. And, we talked about the 8 stages of fog, and the last stage is acceptance and healing. And a lot of people don't reach that last stage of getting out of the fog. And so those who aren't, just tread lightly and proceed cautiously and have a support system, because sometimes you just don't get those favorable outcomes that you're searching for.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I wanted to go over that video because it really shows how there are a lot of children who are in the foster system that are not the desirable children, right? And so there's someone that I follow. His name is losing me right now, but he grew up in the foster system, and his content is on that. I'm actually trying to get him on the show. So he actually reads from his paperwork from his foster families, and it talks about how he was a child.
Oh, was that video you sent me today?
Says how
Okay.
he was literally reading what his caseworkers were writing about him and his evaluations from home to home, and it would say, he really needs someone to love him, he's acting out, he wants attention, and all of these things are put into these reports, cases, files, we're files of the state. And all of that stems from being separated from your biological mother. And a lot of people can't really embrace it because maybe they're not equipped. Maybe they don't know what to say. They don't know how to regulate the behavior, because it's one thing to be emotionally uneasy on the inside, but when you in Walmart screaming, I'm trying to grocery shop, it's like, what do I do? You go into panic mode. And especially if you're just not trained to work with children. If you're not trained to work with children, but you want to do this awesome thing and foster children, you also have to take some accountability and say that I'm not equipped for this. I'm not, I thought I was. And in essence, that's what some of the reports were saying, that, that the parents weren't equipped, but I don't think it's worded that way. It's worded so that the child looks like he's the problem. Parents who are ill-equipped are going to be the ones that's going to continue to pass you to family and family and family. That's why the system is just a crazy system that we are in unknowingly yonder will. It's a crazy system to see how they just pass children along and they keep them in the system, and things are written about these children that make them look like they belong in that system. Alrighty. So moving right along. So we go from a woman who donates her eggs and her child coming to reach out to her 20 years later to a clip about there are 45 parents to each baby that is waiting to be adopted. And this video that I'm about to play is of a woman, an adoptee and her adopted mother. And I love this conversation because you literally see the emotions on the screen from the adoptive mother, and I love that she told the truth and she didn't try to withhold it, but she was very honest about the things she was being asked and her daughter's perspective.
Did you start to suspect I wasn't your biological mom?
When did I start to suspect? Very young, actually. I think primary 4, like that, when there were no photos. And the photos only start ever since I was born, right? But there was no photos of me, and there's no photos of you being pregnant.
At 4, I had to stop it right there. At 4 years old, you realize there are no pictures of you, nor are there any pictures of your mom pregnant with you. So this is how young these thoughts are actually coming out. But again, the trauma is cellular, so they've always lived with inside of her.
I don't know if I even was capable of thinking that
It's
like that.
amazing. It's amazing how people who can. I remember my brother saying he remembers things when he was young, like 3, 2. I'm like, what? I was totally I was totally oblivious. Like, what world was I living in? Because those who remember that young, they have to be so in tuned, I feel like, with what is going on, what is going on around them. I was just existing in the world. It wasn't until literally
That's the perfect word. Like
yeah,
literally.
it wasn't until I got adopted where it hit me like a ton of bricks. Literally. Like even going from foster home to foster home. I don't remember now, but I don't remember it affecting me. It probably did. I probably was a crybaby. I probably was emotional. Like, you know what I mean? But I don't remember those memories.
Mhm.
But like I said, it wasn't until I got adopted until it all hit me like a ton of bricks. Like it
Yeah,
just all
and I didn't even like, even if I was thinking about that, like I don't know. I don't know if I had the capacity to even wonder, like, hey, I don't see any baby pictures of me. I don't see you pregnant. Like what is going on? And I actually have never seen a picture of me as a baby.
oh, you were 3. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's
Like
a
a
lot.
infant, like a toddler,
Right.
I've never seen a picture of me. Probably no, I think the picture that I was in the newspaper, that was probably when I was about 2 or 3.
Mhm.
But um most of the pictures that I have or that were taken were when I was adopted. So I don't, I've never seen me as a toddler.
I have 2 picture. Well, I don't think I was a toddler in that picture. I have 1 picture, and all the rest of the pictures must live with my great aunts and cousins who were around at that time. Because
Hmm.
once we hit foster care, I have pictures from my last foster home, but still not that many. Even though I love cameras, I love taking pictures, but I don't have a lot of pictures. Remember, I said I was done my search. Like I feel like I found everybody. I was thinking the other day, my last foster mom is. I think that's the last person that I need to get in contact with and reach out and connect with her. Just for the mere fact that I loved it there. Like, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I've attempted, I've tried, but she's moved. So, I'm definitely going to try. We're friends on social media. But I'm definitely going to try and reach out to her because, certain atmospheres and certain environments is why you remember things too, and why you don't remember them, why your body, tells you not to remember them. So I'm like you. There was no way I was going to be able to conceptualize where my pictures at. Y'all ain't got me looking fly nowhere.
But and it's funny that you bring that video up. Um, now that I look back at it, I'm like, well, I never seen me as a kid, as an infant,
That's
and
crazy.
um, like, when I got adopted, my mom, she captured every little moment, not just birthdays and Christmas. It was, outside playing in the yard, like I said, if she was still living, if I showed her a picture, she could tell you exactly where this picture was taken, what we ate that night, what music was playing, what event this was. Like she made sure that she took pictures because pictures is a way of remembrance. It's memories.
Yeah. Can you imagine
Um,
not knowing what you like? I don't know well, I only say I don't know what I look like when I was a baby because I've never seen a picture of myself.
mhm.
However, I do have a daughter and she is the spitting image of me. And so whenever I want, but I mean, that was in my mid 20s. So it's like, if I ever had to wonder or imagine what I look like, it would definitely be, it had to be her, because there are people who she won't even be with me, and they'll be like, "Is so and so your daughter?" And I'm like, "Who's asking?" Like, who are you? Get out of my face. But that's the only way that I would know. There are people who walk this earth and have no clue what they look like as a baby. No pictures to show, no story to tell, only, you know, what other people have, like you said, what other people have scripted for you. And I'm
Mhm.
talking in the adoption realm. I'm pretty sure that there are people who weren't adopted that may not know either. Maybe, maybe they don't have any pictures of them when they were a baby, but they're still in their family where they can see where they get certain features from. We're going to continue on with this video. Thank you guys for joining. Definitely hit the like button, share, subscribe, all the things.
And yeah, I think that was when I started actually suspecting. Then, as a kid, I started meddling into the document files that you had.
Another investigator.
Inspector Gadget.
Inspector Gadget.
So I remember coming and asking you, so what is this paper? Like, what is this letter from the lawyers? But you never answered me that time because I was too young.
More than to say scared, I was, how to bring it to her. No matter what, since she feels that I'm not the real mom, what can be the outcome? And the fear.
So she gave the honest truth. I didn't know how to bring it to her. I didn't know what the outcome would be. I was scared. A lot of adoptive parents feel these things. A lot of adoptive parents go through these things. I mean, they would be liars to say that they don't. But a lot of adoptive parents don't have or don't take that opportunity to say, these were my honest feelings. These were my honest thoughts running through my mind. I think it's only when you can have an honest, real conversation is when you start to see connection happening, because your parents are now people. Your experiences are now meshing within one another so that you can see each other for who you are in the experience. I think adoptees get a bad rap when we talk about adoption because you're really only getting to see one side, and not just even one side. You're still not seeing a whole picture, even within that side, because we talk about different experiences and not the whole experience. But if adoptive parents started to speak more, we would be able to get a full picture. And even if one side is not understanding the other side, at least we can bridge the gap a little closer to be able to understand one another. Because her daughter's like, pictures. Now I got to look through your stuff, and while the adoptive parents are valid, her feelings are valid. Should your child really have to go searching for who they are, even if you didn't birth them? Is that something that they have to earn? Is that something that they have to ask for? When you biologically have a child, do you have to say, do I have to ask you to go see grandma and grandpa, or are you just going to take me over there? Right? Like, you know what I mean? So I feel like when we're adopted, it's almost like, do I have to say it? Are you going to say it? Are we going to have this conversation? And that's why we always speak about adoptive parents having those conversations early and often, because that fear probably would subside a little bit if you had more conversations about it. The not knowing the outcome will have already passed because you've gotten through it, and I just think that those roadblocks really keep people from getting to the other side of freedom within adoption. I won't say adoption experiences are good or bad. I think that there are some adoption families that thrive in freedom within their adoption. And I think that there are some adoption families that are bound by the adoption. And you have to find a medium ground where you can get through being bound and live in freedom within the adoption. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it's a fair assessment because, you know, that's just one of the hard conversations you have to have, right? That's
Yeah.
not the hard conversation, but that's just a stepping stone to get you, to like just have some relief, right? Because you don't want to be like in a robotic type of situation where, you know, is a lot of times it's basically do what I say and don't ask no question, don't ask no questions.
Don't ask no question.
But I think it's just the reality of a lot of people's lives, and it's unfortunate and it's unfair. Um, I think to both parties because you have so much tension around that conversation, um, when it doesn't have to be. Like you can tell, like it's still hard for both of them to talk about it because of, um, you know, whatever fears that she might have, and that's a valid fear because you don't know how people are going to react when these conversations start to, happen. And you open these floodgates, and it really, um, a person could fly off the handle, or they could just be like, "Oh, okay, so what does this mean? Like, what does this mean for us? Since I'm adopted, what does that look like? Can I start my search now, or do I have to wait? It's I think having those kind of conversations would really ease the tension.
Yes, I definitely agree. I think that, like you said, the fear is real. I think it's a natural onset emotion for an adoptive parent.
Mm-hmm.
I would encourage adoptive parents to turn the fear into curiosity of the person that you adopted.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you say fear, now you're making me feel like being myself or asking about myself or wanting to know more about myself is something that you're not even willing to explore. You're only willing to explore it if it fits your narrative. And we
Mm-hmm.
have to be honest, if you're going to do a real thing like adopt children, then you have to acknowledge the reality of why they were adopted, where they are originally from,
Mm-hmm.
original names if you decide to change them. You know, you can't do a real thing and then want to go about it in a fake way. Like it's just not. It's like like it's not going to work because again, they're not blank slate babies. So at some point, like around 4, where are the pictures? Where's mommy being pregnant? Just like that one creator, she said, my daughter says, well, if you were adopted, like how did grandma get you? Like even the people around you are going to start having questions, and if you don't have the answers yourself, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. But for the adoptees and adoptive parents, you have to acknowledge the fact that the curiosity from your adoptee will come. So your curiosity hat needs to now be on. And I don't know, like we addressed in the last live, is really only viable if you don't know and if that's the truth. Now, getting past the I don't know, because I don't know will never be an answer that an adoptee will accept.
Yeah, that's not
It
even
will never
in
be,
my vocabulary.
yeah, it will never be an answer that we're just like, oh, okay, moving
Mm-mm.
on. What are we having for dinner tomorrow? Like, no, that is not something that an adoptee is going to accept. So now you have to learn how to have the conversation around what you don't know. Hold space for the emotions for the adoptee who's going to have to accept that you don't have certain answers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and move on from there. But again, when you don't have these conversations out loud, you're going to be stuck at, I don't know, I'm scared, I don't know what the outcome's going to be. And again, like I said before, if it's hard for you to do this in this situation, how are you handling other situations in your life that encourages you and forces you to challenge yourself and to have difficult conversations and to show up in an uncomfortable space? If you
Mhm.
can't do it with a child, your child that you adopted, that you love, that you nurture, what you doing in the public? Are you faking out there? And then, like, what's real, what's fake? Like, you know what I mean? Like, as children, you observe these things and you wonder, are they only doing that with me? Do they do that with other people? Um,
Mhm.
when they're faced with difficult situations, do they just say, I don't know, and expect, life to just go on? No. So I think it's important to really have those conversations to explore what you don't know. And as you start to speak, the language will come. And I think putting a barrier to your emotions or blocking your emotions or not trying to reveal your emotions in a very emotional process is not going to do you any justice. If it has in prior parts of your life, great. But when you choose to adopt, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not, because you're not going to be curating any type of connection with your adoptee. And above
Mhm.
all things, that's what your adoptee needs. It's connection. No one have to buy me a thing. If you know how to connect,
Mhm.
that's worth so much more. Like, you know what I mean? It's worth so much more. But I don't
And
know.
that's the problem. It's a lot of people that don't have the connection skills because you could go, yeah, you could go buy me an iPad, but are you going to be able to sit down with me and are you going to be able to color? Are you going to be able to teach me things? Are you going to be able to actually, um, be there for me when I need that emotional support? Everything is not about money. It really, when it comes to being adopted, it's about how can you connect with me? How can you nurture? How can you teach? How can you be there? When we're ready to have that uncomfortable conversation. How are you going to show up? Are you going to just say, I don't want to talk about it and think I'm going to forget about it? No, I'm not going to forget because one, it's my life story and I'm going to get it one way or another. Like, you know,
And the body keeps score. So every time you tell your adoptee to forget about it, or every time you tell your adoptee, what do you need to know that for? Or every time because I said so, this is how that's the body continues to keep that score. And the questions
mhm,
that they had before now are infiltrated with, we're still not able to address this. And it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger within them. And they, have this is exactly why adoptees, those who are in foster care, they make up a lot of the percentage of youth that are in detention centers, that are in prisons, that are out here murdering, because they are not able to express themselves in a way and have had a safe place to express themselves. So they go out and say, you know what? I don't care about anybody. I barely care about myself because there's
mhm,
nobody that I can connect to, right? That's why people join gangs and things of that nature. They feel a connection there. You have an initiation process to connect with the group. Now it's crazy. I'm not saying y'all should go out and join gangs. I'm just saying that they make each other feel like company by doing the same things and surrounding themselves in the same
mhm,
activity and feeling like a unit. Adoptees are drawn to getting themselves in trouble if they cannot channel the energy in the correct paths. And the first place that they should be able to do that is in the home. And if it is not in the home, I encourage adoptees to go seek out someone that you can speak to, seek out someone that you can talk to about the emotions that you can't speak about at home, because everybody needs a place that they can resort to when they have these emotions arise. Like,
Hmm.
and when I say a place to resort to, you need to be able to mentally uh, prepare your body and physically prepare your body, and be in an environment where you can't speak about it, but you also don't know how to regulate those emotions, can be very dangerous too. We had the transracial adoptee, Joy, excuse me, yeah, Joy. I feel like I'm saying her name wrong. Joy? Harmony. It was one of those. Harmony. She said she was becoming violent
Hmm.
because she would ask her adoptive parents questions, and it's just like, no. What do you need to know that for? We're your parents. And to tell someone a lie to their face and they internally know the truth is crazy. It will turn you crazy. It would turn a person crazy. Like, internally, I know the truth and you're lying to me. But because I can't, because I was a child and I can't put my finger on it and I can't get the facts myself, now I look like the
You
wrong,
look like the villain. Like,
yeah, I look like the bad person. But really, I'm right in all of this. I know, I know what I feel, because again, the body keeps score. So got to be honest. Got to be honest. Got to be honest. And if adoptive parents have those I don't knows and all that good stuff, that's okay. Work through it. Work through it. But just know your adoptee's not going to stop. It's a lifelong journey.
yeah, I mean, because um, when you think about um, the I don't know concept, is really they're just trying to get you to go away.
Yeah.
Like trying to get you to not talk about it. They're trying to get you to not bring it up, and they hope that you'll forget about it. Like 48 hours. Oh, they'll forget about it. They're not worried about that. But no, that is something that's ingrained, and until we get the answers that we need, it's going to be there forever.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're not I don't think adoptees are looking for perfection out of adoptive parents. We're just looking for truth and honesty, understanding, acceptance. It has to be difficult, especially those who are reunited with their biological family. If you don't have those conversations and that connection and that closeness surrounding that topic, adoptive parents may feel, the disconnect when you are with your biological family. And it's like, as the adoptee, you don't want to be in the middle of, you know, that dynamic, because it's like Lauren Hill said, it could all be so simple. Like, I don't, it could all be so simple. Um, and I don't think that adoptive parents want to make it hard. I just don't think that they're honest about not knowing what they don't know, or not addressing the elephant in the room. I just don't think that they're honest about those things. And I think that when everyone starts to operate in honesty, you'll get further. Because again, no one's trying to condemn or talk bad or put anyone down. But the realities of the situation is that it's way more complex than the media makes it seem. The adoptee usually is seen as the villain, and the adoptive parents are usually seen as the saviors. And sometimes adoptive parents need saving too. They get so overwhelmed, they get so bogged down, and they because of not having the knowledge, they feel stuck. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. And so it's a battle on both sides for sure.
Yeah, I didn't. You know, when you look at how people like that lady, you could tell she was still very traumatized by that last video you showed, where she looked like she was still holding back.
The,
Because
the
You
mother,
start
yeah,
yeah, I mean,
which I can understand because she's in front of a camera. So like, there are certain, things and emotions you don't want to be on camera, but you could tell she had a hard time. But I'm still stuck on the going back, remembering 40 that I don't see no baby pictures and I don't see you pregnant. Like what?
I, 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 I can't even argue with how God makes people. I don't know. Like I said, I was oblivious to things, but there are some children that remember everything, and I'm just not one
Hmm.
of them. Somebody like, remember when we? No, I don't. I don't remember. So it just could be, an effect of trauma.
Yeah, that's
Me, is
true.
out of sight, out of mind. Like if I, all right. But yeah, and you were talking about her and how you could still see it
Hmm.
on her face, as they're doing the interview, and how, a bit uncomfortable the mom looks, even the daughter, look how uncomfortable and fidgety
Like
she is when her
she's
mom is talking.
yeah, they're both looking away. She's playing. That's a key sign.
Well,
When they're playing with their hair.
this is a key sign that I've asked over and over again. I've been completely ignored. We've have gone through so many conversations, we've gotten
Hmm.
nowhere. I'm fed up. And then this is her mom actually speaking it looks like she don't even want to hear what her mom's saying, really, because
It's
look,
too late.
I've heard this time and time again.
Hmm.
Yes. And her mom is being honest, and like I said, when someone tells you the truth, you have to accept it. The caveat to that is when someone tells you the truth and you accept it and you do what that truth with what serves you, and what, because sometimes when some people tell you the truth, you have to make a decision to say, okay, I'm going to remove myself, because this, knowing the truth and knowing that the truth is really not going to do anything for me, I have to be able to live with myself, and live with this truth, and be able to live as well. And if this truth is hurting me in any type of way, I have to reevaluate. In this situation, her mom is telling her the truth. A lot of times, adoptees get so weary and frustrated from wanting that truth for so long that when you finally hear this, I mean, it's not like she's not denying anything. She's literally saying, I was scared, I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. Like, this is where whoever is interviewing them, whoever's sitting down talking to them, and I probably should find this full interview, but then that's when they pan back to the adopted daughter and say, what are the emotions that are running through you as your mom is telling you these things, but sometimes it really does suck. But sometimes adoptees get weary. You live with someone long enough and they're not addressing your needs, and they chose to be in your life to address your needs. They're not doing that. What? Again, it makes you feel like the crazy one, because it's like, why are we here? Why are we doing this?
Because it makes it seem like, or it makes it feel, that you as the adoptee have to, like we talked about this before, initiate the conversation, right? Like she probably, I mean, if she was that aware at 4 years old, I can almost 98% guarantee she was pushing this conversation for years. Like, if at 4 years old, you can recognize that I don't see you being pregnant, I don't see no baby pictures. What's the deal? I need to know right now. And you're gonna tell me, or I'm gonna keep asking. I'm gonna keep asking till I break you.
The proof is in the pudding. She looked through the paperwork. How many times has somebody been up on this stage saying, I went snooping through my parents' paperwork? That is someone that desperately wants to know the truth. And again, adoptive parents don't have the language. Your Most adoptive parents want babies, but sometimes you may have a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, and yes, you're bonding with them and you're doing those childlike things, but there's going to become a time where they have language to their emotions. And if you're not ready for that, when they are ready for that, there is going to be a stagnation of development within the relationship. There's going to be a push and pull, a push and pull. You're never going to really move in harmony. You're never really going to be equally yoked as a family if you want to go in one direction of ignoring and being passive, and you don't need to know that. And the other person saying, I just want to know about me. I want to, what's up? How did I get here? I don't see you pregnant. I don't, I have a internal feeling that's drawing me, to ask you these things.
Mm-hmm.
We don't wake up one day and be like, something doesn't seem right. I don't feel like I look like anyone. Like, a kid just doesn't, internally, scientifically, their DNA is screaming, we feel no connection anywhere. We used to feel it, now we don't feel it. And so an adoptee is literally wanting to understand what is going on inside of them and outside of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. They want to know what's going on the inside. Why am I feeling these feelings? Why do I feel like I need to snoop through your stuff right now? Because I feel like it's something you're not telling me. You know, when kids can't trust their parents, again, there's going to be a stagnation in the relationship. You may go back before you go forward. But there has to be some level of trust for a child to connect with you. And maybe, in this relationship, she desperately wanted a daughter connection, and someone knowing that that's not her mom, maybe it was difficult for her to connect. Maybe it was difficult for her to have a relationship with someone who couldn't wholeheartedly tell her the truth. I mean, is that too far off? Would you be able to have a great relationship with somebody who keep lying to you, who keep putting off the truth, who keep wanting to avoid, reality? How much of a great relationship can you really have with that person?
But I'm gonna say, when you, I think you should one day we should do a show about the stages of grief and the experience that your body goes through each stage when you're placed in a new home in a new environment. You
Mm-hmm.
know how long it takes to build that trust and that security with your family, and then only to turn around where it seems like in this case her mother was really putting it off, right? It seems like, the daughter was very aware. She was very, her cognitive abilities were very in tune with where she was.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew, you know, at 4, like, hold on, this is something, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't look like you. I don't see no baby pictures. I don't see no pictures of you pregnant. Tell me, tell me what it is. And I think over time, like her trust level actually went down.
Mm-hmm.
Like she might, let's just say, I'm gonna give a random number, right? I'm gonna just say, like, say she's trusted her like 90%, right?
Right here.
And yeah, and then over time, it probably got to like 50%.
Oh, my bad.
But you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's, you know, it takes a long time to actually, when you're adopted. I know for me, it took me a long time to learn my environment, learn to trust, and once I got to that level, I didn't want to lose that level
Yeah.
because then you start feeling other emotional things when you don't trust somebody. Like you can't trust somebody that you're supposed to depend on, right? Like so I wanted to, try to keep whatever I had and really understand, like how do I eventually bring this conversation up and will it what's going to happen? Is this going to be World War V, or is this going to be, is this just going to be a conversation that runs smoothly, and I can, navigate from there? Because the first thing is the conversation, and then the second thing is the actual plan that you're going to make once you actually get of age, or whatever age that you decide to actually search for your parents.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, Oloa?
I agree. And you mentioned grief, right? That
Hmm.
is one thing I'm sure adoption agencies inform adoptive parents about. I we all know that grief is not a linear process. You
Hmm.
know, one day you can be good, one day you're just all over the place, one day it's like, I want to be outside, I want to come back in.
Hmm.
Grief is one of those things that you really don't know how long it's going to take. You don't know, what's going. It's something that hits you out of the blue. You could be having an awesome day, and then, grief hits you out of nowhere. It could be a lyric to a song. It could be something somebody says from afar, that reminds you of that person that you lost. And
Hmm.
that is something that a lot of adoptive parents probably, like this adoptive parent said, I didn't know what the outcome would be. I didn't know if how to bring it to her. And because they pick up where the loss, they pick up after the loss, they don't know how to have conversations about pre-adoption. Like I was in four foster care homes. I wasn't just, my mom didn't just give up her rights. Like I was with biological family at first, and that biological family passed away, and so that's how we ended up in foster care. And I was in four foster care homes before being adopted. So,
Hmm.
just even the grief of having to lose one family and go to another family, lose another family, then go to another family, then lose the favorite family and to go to a forever family, and it rocks my world.
Hmm.
So being able to even break that down or even acknowledge that helps close the gap for the adoptee from pre-adoption to adoption. Now, those who were younger being adopted, again, and should tell them young and early, but there should be something that bridges the gap in an instance. And honestly, the only thing that's going to bridge that gap is conversation, which causes connection. So, grief is something that adoptees go through. I think adoptive parents go through, especially those who can't give birth, those who can't have children, who face infertility issues. You
Hmm.
know, they go through grief as well. And so just because they have adopted a child doesn't mean that they're still not going through that grief, but if no one speaks about it, if no one speaks up, no one knows and everyone suffers. And you're on a platform like this where the daughter feels stuck. It's like, how can we proceed? How can I take in this truth after I've been asking you and asking you? Because a lot of times, us as adoptees, is like, yes, I believe that adoptee is the center of adoptee, but I'm also wise enough to know that I'm not going through this by myself. Like, do I want it to be all about me? Sometimes. But do I understand that other people are going through this journey with me in the same real time as me? Yes. So I don't want it to always seem like the adoptee's voice is more powerful than the adoptive parent's voice. But again, it's not until everyone makes their voice known that how to steer the ship, because you can't have the one-sided conversation. And that's why I always encourage adoptive parents to come on the platform as well, because um being submerged in that adoptee experience makes you think about things differently. Maybe you might handle things differently, or maybe we may get some insight and perspective that we're not weighing in on. So I honestly welcome everyone's journey, because we're all going through it in real time. I would be selfish to say that I just want to focus on the adoptee experience. And I know that, everybody has to have their niche and their little pocket and their little specialties. But this is the Adoptee Foster Show. And, those who are fostered, most of them do go into adoption. A lot of them don't. And so just because you're not adopted doesn't mean that you don't have a voice within that foster community and experiences that you would like to talk about and that you would like to share. So, all right. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I definitely agree. I mean, yeah, they have the adoptive parents. They have an experience too, right? Like, so, like, we're not actually saying that their voice don't matter, but like, you have to actually want to talk about it. Like, you have to actually, um, and I think we as adoptees should not having to come to an adult to say, "Can you tell me about my life?"
Agree. I agree.
Like, but that is the tenacity, that is the wanting to know, that is the desire to know, and you should know that because that's your story. That's not their story.
Right. Yeah, I agree. All right. So this next video that we're going to get into is a woman who adopted a child and is being very honest. Again, we're talking about honesty and adoptive parents being able to have the right to express themselves and be very honest. I appreciate honesty. Because then we know where we're going. That's, to me, that's like where the rubber meets the road. Like, okay,
Hmm.
truth is surface level.
Hmm.
As long as we have truth, then we know where we're going. But as long as we're in confusion and chaos and stagnation and no, I can't go anywhere with you. But this adoptive mom is very clear on where she stands right now, and it might be a little hard from others to hear, but we're gonna hear her out.
I gave in and we adopted.
Let's see here. Okay.
I gave in and we adopted a little girl.
Tell us the confession.
I don't really love her. And I know that sounds beyond harsh.
Oh, man.
I know. And I can't help it. She still feels like a stranger living in our house to me. I know this is harsh, but I keep waiting for that like motherly bond everybody talks about. And it just hasn't happened.
Right.
I fake my way through like every day, smiling, acting like everything's fine. But inside, I just feel so guilty all the time because I don't feel the love I thought I was supposed to feel.
Woo. Mm. So,
I mean, she's honest. I mean,
she's
it
on.
hurts. It hurts to hear, but I think I ain't gonna lie. I think it's a lot of people like this.
Me too.
Because everybody is not going to get the mom whisperer, right? Or the dad whisperer. Like, they're not going to get the people that, because we know that some people are in it for the money, or some people are in it just so they could say they had a kid, but they don't really, you know, they don't have the mechanisms to actually connect with the kid, especially if they have already had some level of trauma, right? Like, so you're already being adopted. So they don't think people try to understand like the trauma that you actually been through. They're like, oh, you're adopted now. Everything's gonna be fine. We're gonna be one big happy family. But a lot of times that's not the case. I don't know.
It takes work to get there. You
Yeah,
can,
yeah.
but it takes work to get there.
And so when she says that she doesn't feel that bond, I'm actually going to put it back on her because it's not my responsibility to um, just be hunky dory. Like you have to actually come. y- You're adopting me because I was in a bad situation. Now it is your turn to actually, read that paperwork, learn what happened to me, why, try to understand why, and try to meet me, you know, where the rubber meets the road, which is halfway, you know. And I think, you know, that comes with like years of trying and, years of therapy or, reading books, doing whatever it takes to actually become, the parent that you want to be because it's not the kid's responsibility to actually, say, okay, here's everything I dealt with, now fix it. You have to actually figure out what that is. Like if the kid never wants to hug you, like what you got to figure out why. If they never want to be kissed, or if they never want to go outside, or if they never want, there are so many things that can be fixed. But if you're not paying attention, you can't fix it. If you're not aware, or if you're not in that playbook or whatever whatever they call the thing, you know. But you get my point, right? Like it's like the video you showed earlier, where the guy was talking about his each home that he was in and how they were writing down every detail. You know,
in his
he
process.
liked,
Yeah.
yeah, he liked hugs and kisses, and maybe they weren't giving it to him, and that's why he probably was, being, you know not as joyful as they would want him to be because they didn't understand what was written, and they didn't try to fix it. They just was trying to. I'm not saying they're blaming them. I'm just saying that it appears that even though they had the script, but they didn't even follow the script. All they had to do, okay, he likes hugs and kisses. Guess what? Give him hugs and kisses.
What if you're a parent that doesn't hug or kiss?
And that's another thing. Like if you are not affectionate person, it is it's I'm not saying it's impossible, but I am saying it will be difficult for you to meet what the needs are of that particular kid. Because if they like hugs and kisses and you don't like to hug and kiss, that's a problem. Like
Yeah.
because that's the connection piece we're talking about, right? That's
How
the
they feel love.
yeah, that's the comfortability, that's the security, that's the okay, I know if I need a hug, I can go hug moms, right? Or I can go hug or and there's different ways. Like, maybe your father's not a hugger, you could high five him, or you could, jump on his back, or there are many ways that you can express love and it don't have to outwardly be a hug.
That's true. Um, I think, you know, the idea of adopting a child because you want to give a child a great home to live in sounds great,
Hmm.
right? It sounds like, something that you
Fairy tale.
do. Yeah, right. Like, let's, and it's not something that you can just do. It's something that takes a lot of consideration. I believe it takes a lot of prayer. I think it takes a lot of preparation. I think it takes a lot of education, a lot of insight. Being the adoptee, these are my views because I have lived through the experience. And so, it sounds like a great idea. What I will say is that, you know, one thing birth mothers have that adoptive mothers do not have is the automatic pleasure of knowing their child before they can talk, before they can cry, before they have that automatic pleasure of knowing their child. Whereas the adoptive parent has to start from scratch, literally. Like you have to start from scratch, and to adopt there is a process. And even in my process, I remember that we used to visit our adoptive parents for a period of time before we were adopted. And again, oblivious, like I'm just living life. I am getting in cars with adult strangers that I don't know. I am going through this process without
I was
mentally.
just about to ask you, like, how was that? Like, what?
I would stand at the window, couldn't wait to get back to Jersey City. Like I would, and so where I'm getting at is that,
Mhm.
this particular uh person who adopted this child, if you hear her very distinctively in the beginning, I'm not sure if everyone caught it because I was having some issues with the video in the beginning, but let me play it one more time from the very beginning. Put on your listening ears and hear what she says.
So eventually I gave in.
Right there. If you blink, you'll miss it. Let me play it again.
So eventually I gave in.
She says, so eventually I gave in. That tells me you never wanted to do it in the first place, boo boo. You never wanted to do it in the first place, or it was a decision that you played ping pong with for a very long time. And your husband or your spouse or your significant other, whoever you were with or is with, probably wanted it a lot more than you wanted it. And let's go back to the fairy tale narrative. It's a little girl. This is a mom. She probably felt the pressures of being a girl mom, having a little girl, dressing her really pretty, and all the little, things that come with being a girl mom. I'm a girl mom, so I know, like matching and, just all the cute, frivolous things, right?
Mhm.
She says that, she would fake it. It felt forced. And so I always say that if both of you are not wholeheartedly giving a yes to adopting a child, if one of you even says no, the answer is no.
Mhm.
Because no, in saying no in a I think no is actually the qualifier for those who are looking to adopt. If one person says no, that means as a couple, you're not qualified to adopt a child, because the no is the heaviness of and the burden. Like the person who says no feels like they're the villain, feels like, oh my gosh, like I don't think I could do this. I don't feel like, and the person who wants the child is like, but come on, like we could do this together and we'll have a great life. And they're pressuring and pressuring and pressuring and pressuring until that other spouse says, you know what, I'm gonna just give in. If this is what you want, and that's why I said last live that a lot of the adoption emotional baggage falls on the adoptive mother. It falls on the adoptive mother because most men are working, most men aren't as emotional as women are, most men aren't as nurturing, most men wouldn't adopt children. In this case, it seems like her significant other wanted the child and she gave in, right? And we're assuming that it's a man. Did she ever say my husband in that?
I don't
um,
recall.
so we're assuming it's a man, but her partner, they wanted the child and she eventually gave in. And so of course it is going to be very difficult to create a bond, a connection with a child you never wanted really in the first place. You had some doubt that you could do it. And I just don't think that people should go into adoption with doubt. It's either there's two yeses that are strong yeses, a yes and a no. We can't go. We can't. We're not gonna, because one person is going to be carrying the weight, whether it's the mom or the father. I just think that mothers always carry a lot more of the emotional baggage, adopted or not. But if one person is not in agreement, the other person is going to carry the emotional weight of the relationship once the adoption is finalized. That is just going to, and the person who didn't want it is going to remind them of that every single time that there's an issue. Every time something comes up, whether they say it flat out, I ain't want this.
I told you we shouldn't adopt this
Right.
kid.
Whether they say it like that, whether they let you handle all of the issues going on with surrounded by, like, it will come out somehow, some way. And believe it or not, children will notice that. Children will notice when someone truly, you know, we are longing for belonging. And so when you could see someone who is not choosing to connect with you, that to me, that's a clear sign that they didn't want this belonging type of relationship. They wanted what they had, and they were good with it, and then they were convinced, they were coerced, they were pressured enough to go through with this process. And so
Yeah, because like if she, I didn't even get the first part, because like if she talking about eventually giving in is like eating a supreme pizza when you only eat meat lovers. Like that's giving in. Like giving in is like, okay, for example, let's say if we go on a date and I'll be like, okay, let's go see Odyssey. It's a movie that's out right now. And you'll be like, I guess you're not really into it, but you'll do it because we on a date. It's
Right.
compromise. But that's different than like, this is a baby you're gonna have to care for,
right,
and bring, speak life into, and love. Like if she wasn't into it, she should have been like, no, like, because there's always going to be in the back of her mind, oh, we could have been doing something else. We could have been traveling. You know how they like to travel. They
or
love
they
to travel.
their own kids, and
Mhm.
it wouldn't be difficult. Like I said,
Mhm.
adoptive birth parents have the luxury of knowing that child without having
Mhm.
a conversation, without hearing the first cry. It's
Mhm.
automatic, right? And adoptive parents have to build that from scratch, from ground up. I don't care if you adopt a child when they're a baby or not. Now, it's easier when they're a baby because you get to nurture them, you get to create that bond at such a small and tender age, that a lot of the learning experience, you do have that hands-on learning experience. And so it's a little easier to navigate, having that physical bond with them. Again, spiritually, the child is going to know something is off because they're separated from their biological family. So that's the bond that you're now going to have to create from scratch.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, we know how to hug and say I love you every day, and mom, dad, hey, da 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 da. But the bond that you're now going to have to create from scratch is, I didn't birth you. And so there are questions about yourself that you have for me that we're going to have to build this from scratch, because I don't have the answers, but I know that you have questions.
So did
So
she ever mention the child's name? Somebody had a question in the chat. Did
did
they
she say how old the child was? I don't believe so, but we can definitely take a listen again.
So eventually I gave in and we adopted a little girl.
She just said a
Tell
little.
us the confession.
I don't really love her. And I know that sounds beyond harsh.
Oh man.
I know. And I can't.
She never
and the
says what age.
sound effects make it even worse.
I know. I know. I'm going to assume she is past the baby, not necessarily a teenager, maybe preteen, so probably around 7 or 8 years old, maybe a little younger than that. Because I mean, a baby, some maternal instinct just doesn't kick in, but I can't imagine someone adopting a baby and saying that they don't have a bond with them, because the only thing that separates you and the baby is a bond, and you have to develop that in order to take care of the baby. So I would say she's around probably little girl probably was probably 5 or 6, like to a age where behavior is not an issue, but it's probably a symptom of being adopted for sure.
Mhm.
Did she mention how? Okay, I'm not sure if she mentioned age or not. No, it just sounds terrible to ask.
Yeah,
What,
because when you and that's a thing I'm curious about is like how old, like when she adopted the kid, and like how old did she discover, you know, that she didn't that she didn't or couldn't love her, you know?
like how
Was
long
it
did she have her before she discovered?
yeah, you know what I mean? Like it, 5 years? Was it 8? Was it a year and a half? Like I'm just thinking in my mind. I know she didn't say it, but I'm just thinking about like if you are caring for somebody, um, are you just going through the motions just because you adopted them and not trying to actually love them? Because or unless she was just lying from the get go, like she just never
Yes,
wanted to,
she was lying from the get go. That was my point.
like when you go through the the pre-stage where you sit with the baby or they take the baby to your house or whatever, and you spend time with them, where you saying that you can't wait to bring her home, and were you saying all those things just because of your spouse? Because if you don't have a spouse and you adopted a kid on your own, like it's your own fault then. But sounds like she has a spouse
Yeah,
from what I can gather. I mean,
there will always be signs. Like if you adoption is huge. Like this is not, do you want a cheesesteak or a sub? Like adoption is huge. It is a lifelong decision, just like marriage, right?
mhm.
You don't use adoption to be the compromise in your relationship. I'm serious, because marriage is about compromise, right?
Mhm.
Marriage is about, I may not like this, but I'm going to do it for you because I know that you love it and I know that you enjoy it. And I have to be interested in the things that you love and the things that you enjoy if I want to stay in this relationship with you, because that's the way that I show you that I like you. That's the way that I show you that I love you. I'm not really interested, but I'm just going to do it because I know that you like it. And sometimes I can inconvenience myself if you want to go see a Marvel movie and I'm not into Marvel, right?
What?
That's compromise. I don't know nothing about Marvel. Don't even ask me, child.
Oh Lord.
That's compromise. That's compromise, right? That is compromise. Compromise is not, we're going to adopt a child and I know that, you may not be feeling it, but I also know that, we couldn't necessarily do this um, other ways. We didn't have other ways to have children. And so let's do it this way so
Mhm.
that we still have what we want, but it's the unconventional way. And you have somebody that's for that and somebody that's not for that. And then and then you do it to appease the person who really wanted it, but you didn't really want it. That is, it's going to show at some point. Like the person who don't want it will always show signs of that. So I said all that to say that this mother probably always shown signs of that. A lot of, having children is part of your value system when you get into a relationship. It's crazy how some people will say, "Oh, well, I don't want kids." And then they'll be with somebody who got kids. It's like, yeah, you can change your mind, but at the end of the day, if you know in your mind that you don't want kids and you don't want to tolerate, little people messing up your stuff, and like you just know what you like and what you want and what you don't want.
Mhm.
And children is one of those things when you get into relationships. Again, having a compromised child is just not something that anyone should do. And so when one person doesn't want it, it goes, and it happens anyway, it goes against part of their value system and who they are as a person. That shows up in needs not being met, right? So we talked about a child needs not being met, especially the child who said, "Hey, look, I'm looking around for photos of myself and I don't see them. I'm asking you questions. You're not answering. I'm asking you questions about the actual paperwork that says I'm adopted and you're not answering." Her needs are going to go unmet. And I'm not saying that that mother didn't want her or she was a compromised baby, but when you get into a situation where you go against something that's part of your value system as a person, knowing that you don't want a child, that child's needs will go unmet because your real feelings towards the situation hit the surface. You're not going to be able to be fake and be able to meet the needs of a child that you didn't want. Like, it's not going to necessarily, now you might do the overall arching provide, put groceries in, because you need to survive as well. You need to eat. You need a little vacay because you're tired of working that 9 to 5 every day. You know, you need those things as well. So if the children are there, yes, they're going to benefit from those things. But if you didn't necessarily want the kids, they're only benefiting from the physical aspect of the relationship. They're not getting the emotional nourishment that they need from that family that you have created, knowing that you didn't want to create it in the first place. There are some people, again, that can't have children. They can't do it. And so they decide to adopt children, which is fine. But it's only fine when both people wholeheartedly go into this decision excited, wanting this child, knowing that they're going to be able to love and nurture this child. But someone that goes in and says, "I know you can't have kids. I don't really want them, but if that's what makes you happy, I'll do it." And then the kids come in reality, just smack you all the way up and down Broad Street. And you're like, whoa, you're going to have to deal with that because you wanted these kids. Leave me out of it. That's no way to raise a family. Get you a dog, a lizard, a rabbit, some plants, but don't get you any children out of the foster care system of the United States of America. Okay.
So I was gonna say, um, I feel like this conversation you need to have before you actually get together. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you both don't have kids and you don't want kids, but I think as people, you have to realize. I know you can always change your mind, but um, like you said, that value system has to be important to you. Like you have to have red flags, right? Like, so if you don't set any boundaries and you don't make them known, the person that you're with is going to automatically assume, okay, we never talked about it.
Fine with it.
She never brought it up, so hey, let's go adopt a kid. And then now you get on the internet talking about, oh, by the way, I was never into it,
Right.
and I don't love my daughter, but you on the internet saying that. It's kind of it's weird. Like, if she's trying to draw some sympathy or something. I don't know. Like, what is the purpose? You
No,
know.
I don't know. I think that, again, we're honest with our feelings and our emotions. So I believe that adoptive parents can do the same thing. That she can be honest and say, "I don't feel a bond." That's a natural thing. I didn't feel a bond with my adopted mom when I got adopted because it was trauma for me. So I didn't even hold space to feel a bond for you because I'm grieving the family that I just lost. Like, that was my world. Like, I'm grieving the world that I just lost. But you want me to call you mom, love you, hug you, kiss you? I don't know you, woman. So that can be that's true. That happens because, again, they're curating that relationship from scratch. And so a birth mom don't have to ask their child to love them. I never have to ask my child. I never had to ask her to love me. I've never had to ask her to hug me. I've never had to ask her to come and cuddle up underneath of me. A lot of times I'd be like, girl,
Get away.
girl.
Go to your room.
Little, my mom always used to say, And just for distinction, I don't just be out here calling her my adopted mom, but just for distinction, in this setting, my adopted mom would say, if she could, she would crawl back up inside of you. Like that's how much she was, up on me. Like you don't have to force that connection. You don't have to force that bond. You just have it. Now, some mothers go through, postpartum where they that's too much for them and it's overwhelming. And, whereas adoptive parents, mothers are like, oh, give me that connection, give me that love, give me that. And you have to consider at what stage and age and level of the game that adoptee is in. Again, I went through 4 homes before I was adopted, so there was a lot of ground to cover before we could just be like, all right, we're a family. There was a lot of emotional ground.
But I wonder when people make statements like that, I wonder, is that the end of the clip, or did they ask her why, or that just
No, I think
like
that was the end of this clip. Yeah.
yeah? And I would be interested to learn, like, at what stage did she realize that, or like what event brought her to that decision or events? Like, because I mean, I was talking about it earlier. Like, if you have someone who's adopted, you got to learn. They come with a script. You got to learn the playbook. It's just like a quarterback going to a new team. You got to learn the playbook.
But so many people don't want to go into the past. They want to deal with you like you're a blank slate baby
Hmm.
or a doll, Cabbage Patch doll that they can just dress up, they can bring with them to wherever they are, fit you in their life, and you go to and fro with them without, question, without any, you know, inquiry about your emotions. You're just doing those things. And so I don't think that many think about that. I don't think that many people think about, how they're supposed to handle those type of conversations when they think that they're having a child that they're going to raise as their own. I think that, someone had commented and they're like, oh, well, you should lighten up. Not saying it to me, but someone else. It was a comment from one of our videos. You should lighten up and not be so angry with your adoptive parents because they took you in and took care of you as if you were their own. And I said, you can't take care of a child as your own if they're not your own. They were birthed elsewhere, so you have to learn how to connect with this child. You can't, these are the phrases that are thrown at us like, oh, we took you in and we raised you like our own. Like, I know what that paperwork say, and you adopted and now I'm in the family as if I was all, as if you birthed me and da 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 da. But that language is deceiving, because
Yes.
you can't treat a child as if they're your own because they did not come from you. That's a reality. We're not trying to be mean. We're not trying to be, crass. It's a reality. And once you deal with the realities, you'll be able to alleviate a lot of frustration and a lot of the notion of I don't know, or why do you need to know that, or why are we having these conversations again? No, when you deal with the adoptee as an individual, their own individual, and connect with them, that's when you will learn their emotions and how they feel about the journey of adoption. But you doing it with them will really motivate more positive feelings towards it than negative. I'll tell you that. Because even if they have negative feelings toward the adoption, you being there to support them and being able to say, I can understand, why you're angry with your biological mom. And I don't necessarily have all the answers on why she was unable to raise you or take care of you, but I am here to go through it with you. I signed up for this. I'm committed to this. I am not going anywhere. You don't have to worry about me not, wanting to have this, go through this experience with you, because this is what I signed up for. Like this, I already knew it wasn't going to be rainbows and sunshine. Like you got to go, just like we say, have a clear mind when you're going to meet your, your biological family. People who adopt have to go into it like that too. Like, I don't know, you know, what may come of this. Like you said, there is a script. Some people, there really isn't. Like if you're adopted at birth and you're one, maybe even two, you don't have a life book. You don't have too many things. You don't have too many years underneath your belt to have, a script. And so the adoptive parent has to, always keep in mind that there will come a day where your adoptee is going to be curious about who they are. And it's going to be imperative for you to hold space and support them in that journey, because their truth shouldn't be denied to them. It should be actually given to them over and over and over and over again, so they don't become uncomfortable in their truth and you don't become uncomfortable in their truth.
I was reading a story. It might have been a video where um a lady was adopted, and she it was an open adoption.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning, you know, they were sending pictures and everything. They were calling on, they were staying connected. And then all of a sudden, um, oh no, it was she had a son she had put up for adoption,
Mm-hmm.
and there it was everything was going fine until the adopted parents said, your son has been uh, diagnosed with autism,
Mm-hmm.
and then she was like the communication was gradually falling off. And then all of a sudden, the adopted parents said, "Oh yeah, the CPS came and took our kids from us." Like
So the
it's like slipped. She said like slipped. I was like, "What?"
Wait, say that again. So someone gave
So
their child up for adoption. They got diagnosed with autism. It was an
yeah,
open
so like yeah,
adoption.
it was an open adoption, and
Who
every
stopped the contact?
huh,
Who
the
stopped?
adopted parents.
Okay, so the contact slipped off with the adoptive parents, and then they were
They
told that CPS. They said that CPS came to the house and took the kids.
yes, this was a story I read on Facebook.
I mean, do you think it's because the child had um, autism, or do you think that the parents were abusing them, or do you think that somebody was making false claims and had CPS go to the
They
house?
said that they got claims on them, and CPS came and took the kids from them.
Claims that they were abusing the kids.
They didn't say abuse, but they did say, like, they just said that somebody called CPS and they came and take them away.
So, are you thinking it could have been the biological mom if they had an open adoption?
I don't know. Like, autism is very it's traumatic. Like for a parent, for a biological parent or adopted parent, because it takes so, depending on the level, it takes so much energy to deal with a child that has autism, because like if you never had to deal with it, it could be a lot. Like,
Yeah.
um, and depending on like if the kid is like nonverbal or whatever the case may be, right? It's still a lot because you know they don't have the same mental capacity, or they don't understand things in the same way, or you have to try to figure out like
Well, they have a communication. There's a
yeah,
communication barrier and block with those who are autistic.
right,
I
right,
honestly think um, autistic children are very special. I think that a lot of them are very smart. I think that a lot of them are very intuitive. They just have
Mhm.
that issue with communication. Some can be nonverbal. And so it not only takes patience, but it takes education. Like,
Mhm.
parents can't get a diagnosis for their child and say, okay, we're going to go home and treat this as if we just need a little bit more patience. No, you need education. You need people in your corner that you can call at 2 a.m. in the morning and say, I've done everything that I think that I could do, but I
Mhm.
need someone who is highly, trained, highly recommended, highly
Mhm.
educated in this field. So I know how to communicate. I know how to draw the emotions out, or I know how to help regulate my child's emotions because they are dealing with something out of my control, out of my wheelhouse. And I know that in order to connect with them, I need to learn what's going on with them. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't have autism, but I am adopted, and it's almost the same. You know what I mean? Like, in order to learn how to communicate, we're gonna have to learn what the adoptee is going through and why there is a barrier
Mhm.
to communication. Yeah, even with people, it's it's the basis for everything. It's the basis for everything. But yeah, that's a wild story, and I wonder if it was the biological mom who was, kind of trying to use a loophole, like, let's get them out of that home.
You
Uh,
never know.
yeah, I mean, if it was an open adoption, you just never know who or the adoptive mom, parents, or whoever could have really just not had the tools to be able to speak to the disability,
Mhm.
able to fulfill the needs. I think that adoptive parents, if they can't fulfill your needs, I think that they should just be flat out honest about that. I can't meet that need. I know that that's something that you truly need from me. I know that that's something that you desire, but I can't meet that need. I think a lot of people say it without saying it, and the person who need the needs met find out, but they don't hear those exact words. um, and that's for someone who has a fixed mindset. Someone with a growth mindset is going to find a way to meet the need. They're going to find a way to be there. They're going to find a way to connect. They're going to find a way to bond with you in order to meet the need, because they know as a parent that they should be your first line of defense. And if you don't know how to put on your armor on how to deal with certain situations, your child is going to see that. It's going to affect them, and they're going to know this is not someone I can feel safe with going to about certain situations, because they're not even
Mhm.
educating themselves. They're not protecting themselves. And so, yeah.
Yeah, because when I was reading this story, I was like, "That's wild," but I'm sure that happens a lot where people adopt kids who you don't expect them to actually have um, any kind of impairment, from mental capacity or physically or you know, um, and I think that's why a lot of parents try to adopt kids who are infants
Yeah.
because they want to start. I'm not saying it's a clean slate. I'm saying they want to start as young as possible, so they don't they but you don't foresee someone being diagnosed with autism years later. So that was another thing. Um, and so I'm sure that they couldn't have um, depicted that would happen and that they that the kids would get taken away. Like that was a double whammy.
Yeah, my thing is, why did the kids get taken away? Because they chose to adopt. So, were they doing something crazy to the kids to get them taken away?
I
Um,
don't know. If I come across that story again, I will definitely send it to you. I
I
don't know the full.
can, being surprised or caught off guard by the diagnosis, but at the same time, life is going to happen whether folks are adopted or not, your spouse could go and get in a car accident and lose a foot. What you gonna do? So you want another husband? What, like, you know what I mean? What you have to be committed to the cause. You got to be in it for the,
Right.
you know what I mean? It has to be bigger than you. I think small-minded people and small people are very selfish and they don't think about meeting a need because they don't want to. They simply don't want to meet the need. You know, I think that people are very capable. God has made us very flexible human beings where we have the capacity to learn new things. We have the capacity to train ourselves within, you do any, what do they say? A habit usually takes
21 days.
21 days. Right. So, and you see it. You see adults, right? Let's just say they want to go back to school because they want to make more money. They will take their behinds to school to make that dollar, right? They will go to a trade school to be good at something. But when it comes to parenting and especially adopting, right, the growth stops there. It's like, I didn't see you go back to school. I didn't see you go take this class and become this, and now you have this title. And the title of parent is where you stop growing. You know what I mean? The title of mother or father is where you put the brakes on learning more, stretching yourself. Is that where we're going to stop at? Because I've seen you excel in other places and I know you could do it. I know you could stretch yourself because I've seen you stretched. But now when it comes to, meeting needs other than your own, you can't be stretched. And adoptees pick up on that. Adoptees pick up when you choose to do certain things for selfish reasons as opposed to things for, a family gain or a family breakthrough. Because I think, a lot of family breakthroughs come with someone saying, you know what, I'm willing to do it a different way. I'm willing to meet you where you are. I'm willing to hear you out and give space for what you have to say. But it's those people who are selfish and again, probably compromised, adoption could have been the compromise in the relationship and it's just not panning out the way that they thought, or it is panning out the way that they thought. And they're like, this lady who is like,
So eventually I gave in and we adopted a little girl.
Tell us the confession.
I don't really love her. And I know that sounds beyond hard.
Oh, man.
I know. And I can't help it. She still feels like a stranger living in our house to me. I know this is harsh, but I keep waiting for that like motherly bond everybody talks about. And it just hasn't happened.
And I think, which girl, what do you think this is? Year one, this is going to happen. Year two, this is going to happen. It is a process. Why do people think that you can just adopt children who have other people's blood running through their veins and family systems and lineage and DNA? And, why do you think that is going to happen just like that? Why? To me, it's almost, and again, I accept the openness and the honesty of the adoptive parents, but I'm always curious as to why certain things, like how do you come about certain conclusions, right? And when I hear certain things like that, what she's like, well, I thought it would happen right away. And that it's almost like, how can I make myself happy? It's not happening right now. You're not giving me what I want. You're not giving me what I need. In her case, I don't think she ever wanted it. There is a distinction of somebody who wants to be a parent and someone who doesn't. It is clear. If your parent wants to be a parent or not. And I'm sure that most people will tell you.
You could tell at a very young age too.
Right, that their parents wanted to be parents. Some people who just staying together because of the kids. Some people together because both people could afford the rent together instead of apart. Right. So they stayed together. Like you could tell what the dynamic, the love meter. Like you could just feel where it's at in a home that you grow up in every single day. So I just think for her, it's like, what expectation did you have going into it other than you gave in? Because to me, after she said that, nothing else
Nothing else mattered.
nothing else mattered because you that was your truth right there. You gave in. Right. It means you didn't really want it. Exactly. You gave in. So anything else is just it wasn't gonna work out, sweetheart. Like that's pretty much what you're just saying.
She started off with a lie, and like just whatever else she said after that didn't really matter.
Yeah. But again, we welcome the adoptive experience, and I think that if we're able to, I mean, not the adoptive experience, the adoptive parent perspective. But I always my thing is always going to go back to the why. Like, why did you do this, or why were you so eager to adopt, or why? Like, it always goes back to the why for me, because if you can't really explain your why, or even if you can, the why will tell you why you're in, whatever stage you're in adoption, in your adoption journey. It'll define it uh
Hmm.
a lot clearer than what you would have had if not asking why. um we know that this woman here, you know her why is probably, I wanted a child, I wanted a daughter, I wanted someone that I could take care of. But at the end of the day, that's what you wanted. A lot of adoptive parents go into it with what they want, and they're disappointed when they're not met with the same excitement from the adoptee who has wants as well. And we all know that in any relationship, it's give and take. You can't just keep taking um, what you want and not being able to fill me with what I want or what I need. It's just not going to work that way.
Or maybe just a observation. Maybe the girl wasn't opening up soon enough for her. Like because um you know that's all about the security thing, right? Like, so if she's not feeling secure, she's not feeling like she can open up. She's not trusting you. Um, there's a whole lot of things that could be going on behind the scenes. That, like I said, I always like to know, like, what really caused that, or like what, how did she know at what point, or what event actually caused her to actually not say, where she could say, I don't really love her. Was it because she wasn't opening up to the way that you want it and wasn't fast enough? Because when you're placed in those kind of situations, it's not going to, like you said, it's not going to be automatic. Like, it's not going to be, as soon as we come home, oh, hey, mommy, I love you. Can we go play with the Cabbage Patch dolls? So I think she has to be, I think she would have had to be realistic at the beginning to understand that it would not be, it would not be something that overnight. I always compare it to like pizza because I love pizza, and like
There's a second
it,
reference to pizza.
well, maybe because I want some pizza now. um, but what I'm saying is she was like, oh, well, I guess I'll give in. Like, no, this is not a guess you'll give in type of situation. Like, like you said, you're either all or nothing. Like, and for your spouse too, like it can't just be one person.
Hmm.
And maybe like you said, maybe the spouse wanted to have a kid, and she was like, no. It probably kept telling them no, kept telling them no, and then eventually, she was like, okay, well, if you want a kid, let's go ahead and adopt. And now she on the internet talking about she never loved him. I respect her honesty. Like, I understand it. Um, and actually, I think there's actually more people out here like that.
Yeah. And it could be a situation where the daughter was showing the husband, a lot more attention than she was showing the
That's
mother.
true.
And again, you think this mother-daughter relationship, that's the relationship that's just going to click. That's just the relationship that's just going to, hit it off the ground. And what if it's not? What if it is the daughter and the father relationship that, and now is there some jealousy there? Is there some animosity there? Is there some, okay, well, she's giving you something that you wanted, and I just can't stand the sight of the joy, the happiness. Like, there are some people like that, you know what I mean, that will have these thoughts. And I don't want it to go in a, sick direction, but I'm just saying, like, again, when you can't meet the needs of people, they're going to let you know that you're not meeting their needs. And with her saying, I gave in, she is meeting a need of something that her husband want, but it's going against what she knows deep inside of her body, that's cellular within her body. She does, and I can't really say that she doesn't want kids, because she's talking as if she wants the child to connect with her. She wants there to be a bond. She's speaking as if she wants that. But the rest of her, maybe it's the adoption part of it, because if she had a biological child, if they had a child together, I don't know if this would be the same tune that she would be singing. You know what I mean? I think it's because it's a child that is outside of the union, whereas she probably thought that, I don't know, she's comparing it to a biological connection, when adoptive parents should not do that. Like I said, do not say that you're going to raise that child like they're your own, like you birthed them. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Yeah,
You're
and you had a good point too. Like, maybe she doesn't give off or have um that desire, or that nurturing desire, and maybe her spouse is actually giving that nurturing that the kid needs. And like, you're right, maybe she could be jealous. um because kids can listen. Kids can tell when you being a certain way, or like when you have certain emotions, or when your vibe is off, or like when you're not. I mean, we could tell. Like, it's easy. We could pick up on it easily,
Yeah.
and um, and if so, and it could be simple things that she's doing that may not like. Um, yeah, like, does she already have kids? Um, you know, is this their, well, like, was this their last straw to save their relationship?
Yeah, again, adoption is not a compromise in any relationship. Children, period,
Mm-mm.
shouldn't be a compromise in a relationship. Again, even things like pets, like even something like that. Like, I know we always joke about, get a dog, get a whatever. But even something like pets, like if you're not a pet person and you get with someone who has a dog or a cat, it's going to irritate you. You're not going to feel closeness. You're not going to curate that type of environment, because it never was your thing in the first place. So we have to be honest with ourselves, and I appreciate her for being honest, because again, the child is not going to get what they need, because this woman is not, she's not, this expectation of this child is not meeting her expectations, right?
She's not all in.
Right. She's not all in. She never was. And
Hmm.
so again, the child's needs are not going to be met. And so I'm glad that she's honest, but then it's like, well, where do we go from here? Because you adopted the child, which means you went through the process, you went to the courts, you signed paperwork. That child is now you're now legally responsible for that child. So where do you go from here? Do you learn to love the child and the child struggle with getting their needs met? Or are is it a situation where you're rehoming the child? Because a lot of children in adoption sector and community are rehomed. A lot of children who get adopted once may get adopted again. They may get placed somewhere else. And so that would be my question, for that video. It's like, where do we go from here? Because now that we know the truth, again, to me, the truth is where the rubber meets the road. This is the starting point. So if this is how you feel, is there a couples therapy? Does your husband know this? Have you started checking out on the child and not, really been there the way that you first was? That would be my question of wanting to know the rest of their journey. Like Aloha said, I would like to know more context of their journey for that, because again, that is not, do you want a cheesesteak or a sub? That is, are we committed to these children for life? And even when they become adults, they are still going to need us as their parents. Are we committed to that? And a lot of people can barely do that for themselves. So to bring a child in, you really got to be locked in. You really have to be locked in. Aloha says, do you guys think being adopted within family, the feelings would be different? The feelings would only be different. Adoption only thrives within honesty, truth, and transparency. Honesty, openness, and transparency. And so I would say have hot conversations, honest, open, and transparent. And that's how adoption thrives, whether the child is adopted within the family or not, because you will also have people within the family who will keep the lie going, and the adoptee will feel the same as a person who is not biologically related to the people that adopted them. They will have the same exact feelings, the same exact thoughts, because everyone in the family is keeping that lie going, and your uncle is really your dad. So yes, now you have something that could have been very simple, and you just telling your adoptee that your dad was sick, he was in hard times, he couldn't provide for himself, let alone provide for you, so we stepped in and we helped, and we didn't want you to go to a system that you may have siblings who are in that system right now, or you may have family members who are in that system right now. I don't know why it's so hard to be honest with a child who can't reprimand you, a child who can't lock you up, a child who can't take your license away, a child who can't tell you what to do. Like, it's a sickness when you can't be honest with a child. And we all say, well, we're trying to protect them. We're trying to protect them. We're trying to protect them. No, you're trying to protect yourself because of lack of knowledge. That's what you're doing. You're protecting yourself and prolonging the inevitable. I don't know what it is about lying to children, manipulating them, forcing them, coercing them. Like, unfortunately, adoption was not built on the right pillars. We've gone through the Georgia Tans of the world. We've seen videos of CPS workers saying that, you go in there to try and make a difference, and you're really there as a pusher paper. You're really there to just keep the kids circulating throughout the system. So it sucks when the origins of the system is based off of lying, manipulation, coercion, profiting. It's hard when a system starts off like that for children really to grow up in a healthy mental mind space. It's difficult when you want children to, just forget about it or go along with the story. It's hard to do that when it's not rooted in truth.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably my last thing I say.
Yeah, we're gonna get up out of here.
When like when you talk about the Georgia Tan, so I don't know if many people know, but adoption really was only meant for the affluent people in America at that time. Like it wasn't really meant to be like this big over glorifying thing, but she made it that, right? Like she turned that into something. She ruined so many lives um, and and now, you know, we're still paying for that. You know, with all these records that we can't get access to, or we can't even. We gotta go get a court order just to get our own birth certificate, or we gotta file paperwork just to get the paperwork that was owed to us. Like when you look at all of these laws, and like all the laws are different for each state, and they all are don't make sense at times. But now there are states that are actually um, pushing and moving forward with the freedom to give the adoptees back their records. Virginia, California, um, I believe New York. So we are making some progress, but we have a long way to go. But that's why we're here. We're pushing for advocacy. We're pushing for you know our story is our story, and we shouldn't have to have it hidden because there's people who are telling lies that you know I won't go into it this time, but
Yeah. Yeah, I think that no story should go unheard within the adoption foster community.
hmm
However, every story deserves the curiosity in order to get through the story. Stay curious, you know, get off the fence. I said that last live. Get off the defense. Don't feel offended when your adoptee is asking about their biological family. A stork didn't just drop them at your front door. You know what the truth is. So why not share that with them? Making it as common as possible, early as possible,
hmm
makes it easier for the entire family to work through and get through it. But I always say be real with yourself so you can be real with everyone else, because this lady was not that, said that she doesn't love her adopted daughter. She wasn't being real with herself. Being real with yourself means that you might have to break the heart of your spouse. Maybe y'all shouldn't be together. Like, I'm sorry. Maybe y'all should break up before you bring an additional person in on a situation where you're not going to be able to provide their needs. That's being real with yourself, actually honoring who you are, knowing that it may directly or indirectly hurt somebody that you love. That's being real with yourself. And a lot of people would rather honor someone else's feelings way before they honor their own. And I don't necessarily feel like that's a way to live. I mean, I don't believe in being selfish 24/7, but I do believe that we only have one life here on earth. And if we're not honest with ourselves, we can't be honest with other people. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work if you're not honest with yourself. So, y'all know that's my slogan. But here on the Adoptee Foster, we say the uncomfortable things out loud. So if you guys have enjoyed the show, there's a way that you can support the show down in the banner there. But I appreciate everyone who has watched, who has listened in, who has engaged in the chat. If you are on the replay game, excuse me, I was going through some stuff earlier. I could not get the IVF. We was talking about the IVF, and I'm like, I was attaching it so close to adoption, and it's just like, girl, that's not adoption. That's don't have that. Like, what are you talking about? But I had to catch myself a little bit earlier. But thank you guys. We'll be back next Tuesday with a panel. We're still whipping up the panelists now. Some people have confirmed. I do have to reach out to others just to make sure that they are still available. But if you or someone you know would like to be on the panel, you guys can reach out to me. You can DM me, or you can email me at theadopteefoster@gmail.com. You can always email me there, letting me know that you would like to be on the panel, or you can follow me on Real Precious Official or the Adoptee Foster on Instagram and DM me there as well. Definitely follow Leon. He has the Adoptee Voices Instagram page. And it is very active. You repost, you post, you let everyone know when we're going live on here. So definitely follow Leon as well. He's building his following. And still going through his journey, adoption journey. We all are. We're all going through our adoption journey. We're going through it, meeting more people. So definitely wish him well on his journey. If you have any tips, tricks, or perspectives, let him know. But we're going to get out of here. It's been a great Tuesday. If you guys are free, definitely join us tomorrow. We will be live again for the Men's Forum at 9 p.m. Eastern right here on the Real Precious Network. But until next time, do not be afraid to say the uncomfortable things out loud. Okay? Say them out loud. Say them out
I faked my way through
and don't fake your way through nothing. All right? Move her behind. And here she go. But you guys have a great evening. It was a pleasure. Good night.
All right. Have a good one.